All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Frank Analysis. I'm your host, Franco, and we are doing the very first live Q&A for the new Frank Analysis series. So this channel used to focus a lot on political analysis, and now after some realizations of how I want to move the channel forward, I started to reanalyze how I wanted to do things, and I decided that self-help would be a better route to take this channel, and I will get into why that would be. Maybe you guys have some questions. Maybe some of you guys who have been subscribed for a long time are wondering why is the channel now promoting or putting out videos about self-help. Why is Franco putting out videos about spirituality and all that? And I can answer those questions here on this stream. So first, I just want to say thank you to everybody who's been supporting the channel all these years. I really appreciate that. It's truly been such a great journey. It's been 4 years ever since I started this channel, and I'm really happy with the direction that things have gone. But from what I've been seeing is that when I first started this channel 4 years ago, I wanted to help unite this movement to make people's lives better, right? What motivated me in the beginning to start the channel was what was happening politically, right? When I was inspired originally by Bernie Sanders, right? But now things have changed. I don't I don't support any politician. I don't support Bernie Sanders, but I was inspired with how he was calling out the billionaires and the lobbyists and how they were supporting both Democrats and Republicans. And then I started to see how there was a lot of division happening on the left, right? When Bernie decided to endorse Hillary Clinton, that's when we started to see people either support Bernie in that decision, or they said Bernie's being ridiculous, we need to support their 3 years later, right? In 2019, when we started hearing of more politicians starting to run, some people decided to support Bernie, others decided to support Tulsi Gabbard, others Elizabeth Warren. And I saw a lot of division online. And during that time in 2018 and 2019, I was going through my own personal struggles, right? And that's when I started reading up on spirituality. I started reading up on psychology, and that helped me out personally. And I was also listening to some political channels, and I was thinking that this stuff, I really appreciate how these people are informing the public about what's happening in ways that the mainstream media isn't doing. So they inspired me to want to start my own channel where I wanted to talk about politics, but also use some of the knowledge that I had gained through spirituality, through psychology, through the therapy that I had, through the books that I was reading, to try to help to unite this movement. Right, you guys remember I would do panel discussions. Ever since the beginning of Frank Analysis, I would do panel discussions where I wanted to have different viewpoints get together and talk to each other. People who disagreed with each other on different issues. But what I then started to see was there was a lot of grifting happening. And I started to notice that some of my colleagues were... It didn't seem like they were being honest with their political analysis. And I thought that was really unfortunate. I had become friends with a lot of these people, but then I started to see that they would put their career ahead of friendship. I would see that they would they didn't stay consistent with their moral principles. So there was no integrity there. And then I would see the audience. I would see that some of their critical thinking was affected by whatever their favorite commentators would say. So then I started to realize that we are a long way from actually changing this country, let alone changing the world. So I thought that in order to actually help people out, because what are we doing with all this political analysis, right? What are we doing with, oh, I'm giving you the news, oh, I'm criticizing this side over here, how they're doing things, I'm criticizing how that side is doing things, they're criticizing a politician over there, a political commentator over there. Where is this actually getting us? How is this going to make people's lives better? Because when I joined, I wanted to make people's lives better. I used to think we could do that through electoral politics. And then I started learning more things and started realizing that our election system is bought off and controlled by the elite. So then I was thinking, okay, we can't really support any politicians or anything like that because they're not actually going to save us. So then I thought, okay, well, maybe I can still give political analysis so that to keep people informed. But then when I was doing that, I thought that my colleagues were on the same page. I thought we all had well, not all of us, but I thought that some of us had realized that electoral politics were not gonna we're not gonna get us anywhere, and that our focus had to go somewhere else. Like, how are we gonna make people's lives better? Is it going to be a general strike? Is it going to be just supporting different protests here or there? Is it just informing people in general? Like, how can we make people's lives better? So I just had to step away for a while, and that's why you saw between 2023, a lot of 2024, even the end of 2022, I was not really putting out as much content. I had to really sit and think, how am I going to approach the future of this channel? So then I started to think the only way we can actually make people's lives better is if we start to talk about how they can make their whatever they have control over, their personal lives. If I start talking about self-help, if I start talking about psychology or spirituality and all these other things that would help their personal immediate lives, that would be better to do rather than to continue to do what I was doing before, where I'm just talking about the news. Because I really don't appreciate where political independent media has gone. I don't appreciate how its main purpose is to just put a video out there to get views, when all the video does is just give people anxiety and fearmonger them about how bad the other side is, how bad the Republicans are, or how bad the Democrats are, or how bad this one political commentator is. How is that going to improve their lives? Right? At a certain point, they already know that what one side is doing is wrong. They already know that such and such politician isn't actually going to help them out. It just becomes gossip. And if you want to be entertained by that, that's okay. But then at the end of the day, how is your life improving? I try to bring up political solutions. I try to have solutions panels. But once we already know, we should grow our own food. We should talk to our community more. Okay, you get that idea then. But then in our own personal lives, we still have problems. In our own personal lives, we might still have self-esteem problems. We might still have problems with other people. We might still have difficulties dealing with other people. We might still have difficulties dealing with the toxicity of work or other things that happen in your personal lives, right? And that all affects how clear your state of mind is. So I just wanted to change the approach of this channel to talk about more self-help and other stuff like that, because that was the goal from the beginning of Frank Analysis. I wanted to help people out, and I'm in it for the long run. You know, it's gonna take years, but societies have evolved in the past, and they're gonna continue to evolve. All right, and I'll be growing as you guys grow. You know, I'm researching all this stuff, as I'm reading books, um, as I'm meditating, as I'm going on through my own life. Um, I'll put that out there in my analysis, in my videos, to help you guys grow. And then I hope I can get the same from you guys when I read the comment section, and learn from you guys. Catalytic Cantor says, can you gorilla plant something in around your environment, or plant anything that is beneficial just for being around? You mean like plant something like in your home, or what? Like plant food, or what are you talking about? What's up, my favorite plant says, it takes a lot to talk about geopolitics. Keep speaking the truth. Yeah, and like it's still important to have yourself, to keep informing yourself, and to keep watching, and to keep reading up on the news and what's happening. However, too much of that puts a toll on you. You know, if you're just constantly reading all this negative news and stuff, it's gonna affect your own mental well-being. But yeah, we definitely still have to be informed and all that. But when it becomes a, an online war of like arguing with all these different commentators, or all these different uh, fans of these other commentators, then where is that actually going to get us? It just becomes like a whole toxic environment online. But yeah, definitely reading up on foreign policy, all of that is still important. And that was an issue that I saw before I started Frank Analysis. I was actually listening to some spiritual channels. And what upsetted me is that there were some spiritual channels that were not politically informed enough, and would fall for certain narratives that the mainstream media would put out. Like, for example, they would fall for the Russiagate narrative. And I was like, how can you be so spiritually aware? How can you be so aware about consciousness and all these other aspects, and in helping other people, but then you're uninformed about what's happening in the world? Like, the world is part of the extended part of you, right? So that's why it is very important to be informed about what's happening in the world. But in order to be properly informed about what's going on out there, you also have to be aware about yourself. You have to be aware about your own biases. You have to be aware about whether you're in an echo chamber, and whether what you're actually learning is accurate or not. You have to be questioning yourself. And that's what I felt like some of these spiritual people who I was listening to weren't aware about themselves, because some of them were dogmatic about their political beliefs and their biases. So I was like, all right, these guys, even though I learned some valuable lessons from them about spirituality, about consciousness, about self-help, there's still a lot for them to learn about themselves still, because they're falling for all these narratives because they're not aware about their own biases. Anti-war, Dixon, your mouth. What's up, bro? I think the guerrilla stuff is important, like guerrilla activism. Catalytic Cantor says, trees, shrubs, anything you like, and that is kind. Ashley, what's going on? What do you think helps you maintain your integrity? Other people in political spaces have definitely sold out. So what helped you see that and not become like that? That's a really great question. Um, to be honest, I don't really know, other than maybe just talking to people outside of this space. Like having friends who are not so um they're not so engulfed or so involved in the online political space, and then just telling them what's, hey, I experienced this right here, like what are your thoughts on that? Like it seems weird. It seems like some of my colleagues um are giving up their own moral integrity for their career and for opportunities, and for connections, um, and just getting that outside perspective just helped me see outside of that whole bubble and break out of it. And I think maybe just reading up a lot about philosophy and spirituality and all that helped me be more self-aware about myself, so that I don't fall into an echo chamber and stay there, because you can definitely be really comfortable in that, uh, because you're listening to a bunch of people in that space who all agree with you. But how do you know that all those people that you're agreeing with are all wrong, including yourself? Because then it becomes dangerous, because that's how all these different, like all these conservatives or liberal groups, that's how they are. They all think that they're right. They're all in their echo chambers, just confirming each other's biases, and they're not daring to question themselves. Sometimes it's out of fear. It's out of fear of losing that community. But in order for humanity to in society to evolve, we have to be able to be self-aware about ourselves and to question our own biases. Anti-War Dixon says Naomi Klein wrote that book, No Logo, that is like a guide to guerrilla activism. Yeah, I'd like to learn more about guerrilla activism from you, Antwan Dixon. That sounds really interesting. I would definitely want to check that out. Catalytic Centaur says, yeah, you're right. It's taking a toll and it's addictive. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to lie. Some of that stuff can be addictive, like hearing about, I don't know, such and such person called out this other person. It can be entertaining. And sometimes there are some lessons that you can learn from it. But if you're doing that all day, every day, then what is that actually adding to your life? You got to have some time to step away and ground yourself and be outside of the internet. Otherwise, you're going to think that that's the whole world. Like what you're seeing online in that space, you're going to think that that's what the whole world is about. And you're not talking to other people who are outside of that bubble. And Antwan Dixon says gardening in a self-sufficient way is really important, I feel. And learning to cook and share food. That's how humanity was, from the start, like the origins of humanity, being hunters and gatherers, being aware of their plants, like when we started agriculture and everything. In a way, like being in touch with nature like that helps us be present, and it gives us a clearer state of mind, as opposed to when we're like online all day, or just being reliant on other people, being reliant on capitalism to do things for us. It takes us out of the present moment and brings us confusion and less confidence in ourselves to do things for ourselves. Catalytic Centaur says it's all about perception, if that's true. Gentle slash benevolent action is expressed slash ongoing perception. Even the process of an aware perception is an action, though. So another thing that I was realizing before I finally decided to take the channel in the direction that I'm taking it now is that um, everyone's talking about how they want a revolution. They want new people in charge, right? Because the current way in which our society is functioning is not benefiting us. It's not benefiting working class people. But what we have seen throughout history is that every time there is a revolution, the new people in charge end up making the same mistakes as the old people in charge, because they let their greed get to them, they let other things, their ego get to them, right? That right there is a result of not being aware about yourself enough. And so to prevent that cycle from occurring again, we have to be more aware about ourselves. And that requires work through self-help, work through philosophy, psychology, spirituality. Otherwise, we're going to keep seeing this cycle ongoing. A revolution happens, but then another revolution will be needed again, because the new people are just making the same mistake as the old people. I mean, we see people in the online political space all allowing themselves to be controlled by their desire for clicks and the desire for growing their channel, desire for gaining more online support, because that means more donations. For them, a lot of them are doing it full time, and so it's survival for them. They might be unconscious about it. Some of them are conscious that they are doing this and that they're deceiving people. Others are probably unconscious about it because they're deceiving themselves, and they're unaware that they're deceiving themselves with some of the narratives that they push out on their political analysis. But I've seen some of these online political commentators, put out polls to test the waters and to see what their audience wants them to think. They're like, what do you think about this issue? They're like, what do you think about the truckers' protest? And then they see what their audience says. And then based off of those results, then they're like, okay, so this is the position I'm going to take. And then that's what they say on their channel. That's not real honesty right there. That's them doing things in order to appease their audience, as opposed to actually educating their audience. If you want to actually educate your audience, you have to actually go out there and educate yourself. And that's not what a lot of these online political commentators are doing. Hustle culture, exactly my favorite planet. So we are streaming both vertically and horizontally. So shout out to both audiences there who are watching in the two different formats. What's up? We need critical thinking. It's great to see you. Says salute to the Franc analysis sector. It's good to see you, man. I appreciate the support you've been giving to the channel for all these years. Antoine Dixon says, and learning to cook and share food. Yeah, all of that. Remember what I talked about in the self-esteem video. Self-responsibility. Growing your own food, keeping yourself, and living consciously as well. Being informed about how to be healthy, how to eat healthy. All of that can help boost your self-esteem. When you have a higher self-esteem, you realize that there's not really a need for you to want to fit in with a certain crowd out there and to give up on your integrity. So doing things like that, like growing your own food and cooking and learning what healthy foods to eat and all that, it helps you to boost your self-esteem and avoid being in an echo chamber seeking approval from other people. But yeah, let me know what you guys have questions about. Some of you guys are thinking that, I saw someone mention earlier, are some of these channels bought off? To be honest with you, I don't know if some of them are or not. I've heard rumors that some of them are bought off, but at the end of the day, I don't know the actual truth. It would just be my speculation on whether they are or not. Some of them actually are bought off if they are, working for a foreign state, like if they're working for a foreign state news outlet, then I mean, yeah, they're going to be bought off and have certain biases. But yes, sometimes just because, but also you got to remember, a lot of these people, what attracted you to them is that they were talking about things that you found were true. Like there was a lot of evidence to support the things that they were saying. And maybe they had a good track record of talking about the truth, or talking about what's actually happening in the world. They're like, oh, I mean, yeah, this is backed up by a lot of evidence. They're challenging the mainstream narrative. Um, but that doesn't mean that they're always going to be right. Same thing with a lot of the channels that you disagree with. That doesn't mean that they're always going to be wrong. Sometimes the people that you disagree with a lot are going to be right in some cases, and the people that you tend to agree with a lot are going to be wrong in some cases. Sometimes they're both going to be wrong. We Need Critical Thinking asked, what did you have for dinner? I did not have dinner yet. I did have lunch, and I had a really tasty sandwich. I had something called the Wild Wally. It's a turkey, blue cheese with buffalo sauce. It was so good. Now for dinner, I don't know what I'm gonna have for dinner. I'm gonna have to check my fridge. Some videos that are coming up, you guys are gonna like the next one because I'm actually gonna be explaining what spirituality means, what is the difference between spirituality and psychology. And then I have another video planned after that one. So I'm trying to get these videos out like at least once a week. The one after this week, so the one that's going to come out this week will be about the difference between spirituality and psychology. I'm going to be explaining why you pretty much need both. I'm going to break that down. I'm going to break down what spirituality is, what it isn't, because some people have some misconceptions about what spirituality is. And then the week after that, I'm going to cover the Diddy stuff, the P. Diddy stuff, because there's a lot of life lessons to learn from there. And at the same time, it is something that's happening out there in the world. And part of self-improvement, self-growth, part of spirituality is that you also have to be aware about what's happening in the world. So just because I'm taking this channel on a different direction, tangential direction, right? We're talking about self-help. It doesn't mean I'm not going to be talking about what's happening politically, what's happening in the world, because all of these things that happen in the world affect you directly, and it is important for you to be informed about what's happening. Ashley says, how dare your wife not cook you dinner? She cooks me dinner. I cook dinner sometimes too, although I wasn't as consistent before. I had stopped for years. That was bad on my part, but I started cooking again. So yeah, we take turns cooking, my wife and I. Yeah, she's a really good cook. Shout out to her. My favorite planet. What are some of your favorite channels? So let's take a look, because I have this Franc analysis channel, and I also have my own personal channel. And in my own personal channel, that's where I watch like a lot of different stuff. So I'm not only just watching political stuff. I'm also watching other stuff too. Because it's good for your mind, right? You to have some escapism. My escapism is reading some manga, watching some anime, keeping up with some comic book movie news, because I mean, it's like part of my childhood. Keeping my inner child healthy. That's another really important thing for people to be doing. And having that escapism, because as a child, you experience, or we're supposed to experience, more joy. And in order to make your life better, you got to experience joy. So some of my favorite channels, I read and watch a lot of One Piece. So I like to listen and watch some of these online One Piece analysis channels. So I like listening to Mr. Morge. He's on here. A really good channel that I recommend for you guys to watch that talks about psychology and spirituality is Gem Vita. Is JEM space VEDA. Gem Vita. His videos are awesome. A lot of them have like inspired me. He also had a video that talks about algorithms, and it's much longer. It goes more into depth than what I talked about. He talks about something called the bandwagon effect, how a lot of people they start to unconsciously believe certain narratives just because they see a lot of people believe in it, or they start to follow or watch certain videos or channels just because they see that it has a lot of video followers or a bunch of views. But just because something has a lot of views or someone has a lot of followers doesn't mean that they have a lot of credibility. He talks a lot about society. He also talks about psychology and spirituality, self-help stuff. Let's see. Den of Nerds, talking about like comic book movie stuff. Like, I also watch Infinite Waters is a new channel that I found, and they also talk about some self-help stuff. Recently they were talking about the Diddy stuff, which if he's like a self-help channel and he's talking about this stuff, that inspired me to want to talk about the Diddy stuff too, and give my own analysis, and even give some of my political research and analysis, put that background into use for that video. I'm pretty sure you guys are gonna really love that video that I have, that I'm working on about the Diddy case. You're probably gonna hear some stuff that other channels aren't bringing up, or connecting the dots in ways that other people aren't connecting the dots. Clark Kegley, that's another channel that talks about self-help. Um, there's a channel that Propaganda Live, shout out to him. He told me about this channel called The Hated One that gives a lot of great analysis about civil liberties stuff, exposing some of the shady things that online social media websites do, like things that Google does, things that Telegram is now doing, things that WhatsApp does. Um, let's see. Talking about exposing Apple and some of the things that they do, how they might be violating some of your privacy. Um, yeah, like privacy concerns regarding some of these big tech companies. Have a conversation with Spirit Man. Who's Spirit Man? I'm not sure who that is. Better Ideas. Let me look that up. It's quite a good channel in regard to psychology. Let me see what that is. Better Ideas. Oh yeah, I heard of them actually. Yeah, they have a pretty big channel. It's like a philosophical channel, right? Yeah, how to make progress in life. Having no charisma is ruining your life. How to have the best summer of your life. Yeah, that's a pretty good channel. I'd recommend them. What else you got? What questions? There's a lot of stuff I'm really excited about with this channel. Some really great videos that I got planned out for the future. You Down with My Boy. They are streaming on Twitch now. It's the best political show on Twitch. What's the name of this channel, Antoine? Let me know the name of this channel. Rodrigo Mendez, you done with politics? No, I'm not done with politics. But what I am done with is just doing it like every day, you know? But politics, as I was mentioning earlier in the stream, it's still very important for your personal growth, for spirituality, because it's part of your extended self. Things that happen out there in the world in politics still affect you. So in some of these videos, I might bring up something that's going on politically and all that, and I will bring up how it's affecting you, why it's relevant to you. But as far as like every day talking about a recent news event, I won't be doing things like that as much unless there's something that I feel I could really connect to how it can affect people directly, you personally in your life, and what you can learn from it to help you grow. And if I feel like there's things about a recent thing in politics that's happening that other people aren't really saying, or that people aren't really connecting the dots about, then I'll probably do a political video on that. Like, for example, I was mentioning earlier, it's not really like that much politics, but it is like still important because it's something that's happening out there in the world. But the Diddy stuff, I feel like in the video that I'm doing, I'm gonna be bringing up stuff that I think that other channels aren't bringing up, and connect it to something that could help you in your own personal life. What are some lessons that you can learn from that whole situation that's happening to Diddy? Bird World is asked, where my hug at? Where my hug at? To be honest with you guys too, just like the constant, like I still read up on like what's happening in politics and everything. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm still doing that. It's still very important to do. But what I was doing before is just 24/7. I was invested in that, and it was affecting my mental health. I was being very pessimistic about the world and everything. Like I was just feeling bad the whole day about what's happening to other people in other countries, things that are happening to people in this country. But I can't I can't actually help them if I'm just feeling bad the whole time. It's good, like it's very important to be aware about what's happening to them, but in order to help them out in the most efficient way, it won't be by just like feeling bad the whole time. um, and it also won't be by creating a toxic environment where you're just like getting mad at everybody close to you, um, in a toxic way, you know, for not supporting certain issues that are happening out there. You have to find healthy ways of communicating and informing other people close to you about what's happening in the world. And the best way to do that is to become more self-aware about yourself. So earlier I was talking about I want to actually make people's lives better. That was the whole goal from the beginning of Franc Analysis. And I can't do that if it's just like day in, day out, just talking about the news, or like what these other channels are doing is like complaining about other online commentators or complaining about politicians the whole day. What are you actually going to do to make people's lives better? Because isn't that what the whole point of all this is? Because that's what I initially thought. Like when I got inspired to do this kind of work, I thought that the whole point was that we were all trying to make people's lives better. Sup, Glory? when you're dropping your theory vid on the One Piece Void Century, ooh, dang, and then connected to real world issues in the future. In the future, I want to connect what we see in One Piece and like how it reflects so many things that happen in real life. Because in One Piece, we see like human trafficking. We see elites oppressing other people. We see false flag events. We see governments collaborating with terrorists to try to create false flags over to take over countries, to take over the resources of other countries. Isn't that what happens in real life? It's talking about lies that were told about history. So yeah, like that would be a really cool thing to do. Make a video talking about the parallels that in One Piece to what we see in real life. What the main character does is he each island that he gets in, he sees that people are being oppressed or some shadiness is happening in these islands. There's some like hidden truths. People are being lied to, manipulated, while there's an authoritative leader or a leader who's oppressing them. And then his actions, the main character's actions, starts to expose the truths, and then he ends up liberating those islands and those people from their oppressors. My favorite planet says more of a balance. I get it. Politics is so harsh. A lot of people can't pay attention to it. And just talking to some of those people that aren't as invested in politics, like in real life, it can be a way for you to ground yourself. Like talking to those people and getting their perspective on what's going on in the world, that can help you avoid being stuck in an echo chamber, which unfortunately a lot of people in these online spaces, a lot of people who view these online political commentators channels, a lot of them are stuck in an echo chamber. They think that everybody like in the world thinks like them, or that everything that they see online is like real life, and then they become out of touch, and then they don't know how to communicate with people in real life. How are we supposed to create any movement in that way? How are we supposed to create any movement if you're not talking to people in real life outside of that online bubble? Philip says, I'm glad that you realize that how bought off our politicians are. There are some politicians that are not bought off when it comes to third parties. That's why third parties are so important. Jill Stein running a People's Power campaign, grassroots movement. That's who we need to support. Jill Stein for president. So Philip, your heart is in the right place for sure. There's a lot of stuff I've covered about the Green Party before on this channel. If you want to go back and look at interviews that I had with some people who were running for the Green Party in 2020, people like what's his name? I can't remember his last name. Chad. I talked to other people too who were running for the Green Party and all that, or who were very involved with the Green Party, and they were talking about some corruption that was happening in the Green Party to try to put Howie Hawkins in 2020. The issue that I have, and then I expressed this in other videos that I have too, when I would do live streams, when I would have panels and stuff. The thing that I have with third parties right now is that there's not enough backing or support from them. They're not really organized right now. And even if by some miracle third parties were to get into Congress or anything, they still are going to have to be working with all those people that are introducing bills that are written by lobbyists, and they're going to do everything in their power to, like, these, like, Democrats and Republicans are going to do everything in their power to get those bills crafted by lobbyists passed. So in that regard, I don't think that we should be putting all our hopes on the Green Party or third parties in general. I also don't see enough work being done to expose the corruption that happens with our election system, election integrity. So I think that our energy, when we're talking about how electoral politics is a waste of time, third parties are included in that, unfortunately. Our best bet to actually make the world better would be to work outside of electoral politics. In theory, yes, having third parties and everything that actually represent what the people actually want, in theory, yeah, that would be good. But right now, I don't see anything that's like anything that's like revolutionary enough that will actually help people right now with third parties, if that makes sense. And with the way that the elite currently move, if they were revolutionary enough, then we would see more infiltration happens. Who knows if infiltration already happens with third parties? Maybe there is some infiltration happening now with third parties, but we would see stuff occurring with what we saw happen with Malcolm X, with what we saw happen to Martin Luther King Jr., with what we saw happen to the Black Panthers, where if there's an actual threat, it unfortunately doesn't end well for a lot of these political leaders, a lot of these revolutionary leaders. Let me know what you think about that. And if you want to have more conversations about that, about third parties, reach out to me through Twitter or on Discord, and then I can express my thoughts more about that, or if you have any questions about that. Rodrigo Mendez says, you see leaving the US as a viable option? I mean, for some people, it might make their lives happier. Like, I see people in other countries living really happy and everything. The issue that some people have, though, is that a lot of people can't afford to move out of the country. But if somebody has the finances, if somebody has the opportunity to move out and they think that that would make them feel happier, then yeah, why not go for it? Maybe their lives will be happier in another country. Maybe that will help them have a clearer mind and everything. And I'm gonna have a whole video at some point talking more about like astrology, because a lot of that stuff does affect like how we live our lives depending on where we are in the planet. Because we have to think about it this way: we are made up of molecules. We're also energy. Stars all have their gravitational pulls. All of that is going to have an effect on our molecules. It can have an effect on how our genes are expressed. It can have an effect on our hormones, which are also made up of molecules. We see how the moon that gravitational pull of the moon affects waves. We're made up of mostly water. So I don't think it's really that big of a stretch to think that stars, their gravitational pulls have an effect on how we feel and how we experience certain patterns in our lives. And also, how we feel is going to be different across different parts of the planet. And that's what astrocartography is. Astrocartography. I'm gonna put it in the chat. Astrocartography for people if you're interested in that. Based off of that, you can learn where on this planet you'll have a happier life, where you would have a luckier life, where you would have a more difficult time. Like for example, if you're living along your Mars line, you're going to experience a lot of aggressive people, or a lot of situations that are going to challenge your patience, because Mars has to do with like war and like taking action and everything. So yeah, if you're living on your Mars line, you're gonna have a really hard time. Vibrations affect all things. You still have free will if you recognize the influence. It's all good. Yeah, you mean that's part of it. You know, part of astrology is to understand yourself and to understand your weaknesses, so that you can have the free will to avoid those things, to be aware of yourself, right? Yeah. Both are true. Free will, in my opinion, and the research I've come across, and astrology, all of that, both, like, they can be both true at the same time. We Need Critical Thinking says we all are on borrowed atoms and borrowed time. I thank the universe for both. Exactly. Your energy, your atoms, your molecules were all at one point used for something else. Maybe some of your molecules were once in a dinosaur's skin. Things are crazy like that, right? At some point, it was probably part of a plant. At some point, it was probably on another planet. Right, exactly, my favorite planet. I was just thinking that, and I was just about to say that. We are all connected. And that's why energy is never created nor destroyed. It just gets transformed and reused. All right. How long have we been streaming now? It's been like 53 minutes. If you guys have any other questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. But I just want you guys to know again that I am so appreciative about the support you guys have been giving me. I'm really happy about the direction that this channel is going in. I'm really appreciative of the time off that I had during 2023, part of 2022, where I wasn't as consistent as posting videos. It gave me time to think about what I actually want to do, what the whole purpose was for me to get into this space to begin with, right? I wanted to help people. I wanted to help improve people's lives. My zodiac says we need critical thinking. My zodiac, I am the 13th sign, Ophiuchus. I have heard of like other cultures and stuff acknowledging 13 signs instead of 17. Antoine says favorite restaurant. I have a lot, but right now, what would my favorite restaurant be? It's a really good question. I really like Hot Pot. There's a lot of good hot pot places around here. I like Chinese food. I like authentic Chinese food. There's a lot of good Chinese restaurants around here. Look up. So you got a lot of you guys know I'm in the DC area based on the streams that I've done in the past. Have you guys heard of mumbo sauce? Mumbo sauce is so good. Eating that with fried chicken. Having your fries and then having like fried rice. Oh man, it's so good. What's my zodiac sign? I'm a Capricorn. I think we talked about it before. There's like some streams back where I had Glory Jones and Nico House on, and we talked about astrology. We were talking about the age of Aquarius and what to expect with that. And then you know how Nico is. He loves talking, and he was talking about how he's a Capricorn and all this other stuff. He was talking about my Chinese zodiac sign is a dragon. Yeah, he was and then I was also talking about how I'm also a Capricorn. At least I think that was discussed in that stream. It was either discussed in the stream or after the stream. Favorite season? Fall season. Fall season's the best. Right now in the US, we're experiencing fall. We see beautiful colors outside. The weather is perfect because it's not too hot, not too cold. You can wear your sweatshirt. It's the best season for fashion. You can do way more for fashion in the fall than in the other seasons. If I didn't have allergies, I would say the spring is the best time, the best season. But because I have allergies, I'm going to say the fall. Spiced chicken and vegetables over rice, stir fry, let's go. Yeah, that sounds really good. I love Chinese food. I also love Peruvian food. You guys gotta check out some Peruvian food in your local areas if there are any. Check out some Peruvian chicken. Peruvian chicken is really good. But there's also a lot of different meals you can have, different entrees. There's like arroz tapado, papa rellena, lomo saltado. Favorite type of pet? I like cats and dogs. Right now I have 2 cats. They're both my children. Me and my wife's children. Andrew Dwyer says, yeah, spring kills me sneezing all the time. Some people are now getting allergies in the fall. Something that I also, if you guys probably noticed, like when I was doing some when I was like not streaming as consistently around 2022 2023 and stuff, I was doing some book reviews, but as time passed, I started thinking, I think that people will get more out of it if I just talk about the books in some of the videos, that the way that I'm doing them now. If I just like mention the books in those videos and how it ties in with certain topics that I'll be talking about in the videos. Or if like a book really, really stands out to me and I really want to like talk about a lot of the things I learned from there, then I'll do a video like how you saw with the self-esteem video. I'll do something like that. But yeah, shout out to the video editor. My video editor is really cool. Petting your dog/cat is really a good way of passing time if he/she likes it. Yeah, pets give you that like sense of responsibility, which helps with your self-esteem, right? Because you're taking care of them. It also helps you feel good that you are taking care of another being, and having that feeling of another being loving you unconditionally. All of that is good for your self-esteem. It helps to give you more confidence in a really positive way. But yeah, it's really nice having a pet. If you haven't had a pet before, like having one really changes your life. I would say it makes your life way more happier. Cats or dogs, either one. I think it also depends. If you like going outside a lot and like socializing with people, um, and being like really active outside, a dog might suit you more. If you also like having your own like independence and feeling like you can go outside, but you want to do that like more on your own, and then you come home and then you have your little buddy, your cat there, and then your cat sometimes does its own thing, sometimes comes up to you and wants pets and everything, then the cat would be more suited for you. um, but yeah, cats are more suited for people who are like more independent. Dogs require way more care. With a cat, the most you have to do is like feed them and clean their litter box, and then give them attention sometimes when they're asking for it. But cats are there's so many different personalities with cats. There's some cats that really love attention and having that all day long and being played with all day. And then there's other cats that like doing their own thing, and then just having you, they like just having you around. Spooky dookie or creepy peepee? Spooky season's coming up, right? We gotta know what we would rather choose: spooky dookie or creepy peepee. I would say creepy peepee because it sounds funnier. Spooky dookie, nah. Creepy peepee's funnier. Dogs require you to go outside, which can be a boon. Andrew Dwyer says the first two cats I grew up with, named Figaro and Cleo after Pinocchio, I still have vivid dreams about to this day. I swear deceased pets you had connections with visit you from time to time. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I still have dreams about my childhood dog, who was a golden retriever. He lived for like 14 years and he passed away in 2018. And I still have dreams about him. Like I still have dreams of going to my parents' home and then he's there greeting me. And then there's sometimes randomly throughout the day where I'm just I'm thinking about things that have nothing to do with my dog, and then all of a sudden I get like a feeling of like his presence just comes up. I don't know. I feel like um there's a realm out there where your pets and all your loved ones are out there watching over you. At least there's like an energy out there, that's probably like protecting you. But that would be a cool video topic, talking about like what happens after death, what happens after we die. Do we get like a choice? Like, do we get to choose like to reincarnate? Do we get to choose whether to just continue on with whatever comes after? Like just not being associated at all with this realm here, this three-dimensional world? Or do we get to choose to be like a little guardian for a loved one who's still on Earth? That's something I would like to read up more on, like what people say about the afterlife. Some cats consider you as moving furniture, being there to serve them. Yeah, some of them are like really, what's the word for it? Like stuck up and just like high maintenance, and just like see you as like a servant. And then there's other cats that see you as like a caretaker. Like my cat, for example, one of them, he gets really sad when my wife and I go on vacation, even if it's just for the weekend or something. He gets so depressed, and then we have like a family member or a friend who stays over, and then they're still sad that we're not there. Yeah, my favorite planet. I'm so thankful the world has animals. Absolutely, absolutely, man. Animals give us they help us to see the world differently. They help us see the world in a more positive way. And then Cadillac Centaur says, I still love our childhood Cocker Spaniel, Nellie, whom I mistreated once very harshly, for which I'm still sorry. I hope she will have forgiven me. As long as you gave her like a really good life overall, I'm sure she'll forgive you. What's up, Ronwell? How's it going? Yeah, it has been a while. I see you sometimes, like on people's chats, because sometimes I do pull up on like I was mentioning earlier, like sometimes, just sometimes, very rarely, these like online drama stuff between commentators can be entertaining, but as long as you're not like addicted to it, right? If you're just doing it like once a month or whatever, just to see, like, what the heck is going on. I see you on the Vanguard streams, Ronwell. And yeah, I don't. You guys know I don't always agree with the Vanguard, but they own up to what they are doing. If you get what I mean, like they know they're a drama channel. They don't hide that from people. There's other online commentators that are trying to be taken seriously but in reality, the whole time, their channel's no different from the Vanguard. It's just cheering for another side or cheering for different people. So yeah, I at least appreciate the Vanguard's honesty with that. Gavin and Zach, I don't agree with them. Like right now, they are. It seems like they're supporting Kamala. Now they brought up their arguments for why they might support Kamala or might vote for her or whatever, but at least they have uh, some honesty, right? I see them as more honest than a lot of these other online commentators, online channels. They're not hiding the fact that they're a drama channel. Ronwell says, never thought you paid attention to the Vanguard. I pushed them back on Kama just so you know, Frank. Yeah, exactly. And you can push them back and everything, and sometimes they might get mad. And they're like, then why are you watching the channel? And you'd be like, cause you guys... Like, I've seen some people that I know in the chat saying, like, cause I still think you're cool, blah, blah, blah. And that's the thing, like, in real life, you can have friends or family members who still think that voting or supporting for Democrats or Republicans will be a solution. It doesn't mean you have to end your friendship with them or end your association with them. The only time I feel like it would be good to end a friendship with somebody or just distance yourself from a family member is if your relationship between them is toxic. But if in all other aspects they're a good person, you guys help each other out, you guys have that history, and yeah, they help you out in several other ways and are supportive in other ways, you guys can still be friends with each other. Vanguard is too blue dog for me. Yeah, I mean, I get that too, you know. Those are just disagreements we have with people. What what becomes a problem is what we see when the echo chambers are toxic and they're just like um, with other online political commentator spaces where you can see like some dishonesty with some of them. That's when it's problematic, and that's what I really didn't like and why I stepped away and why I don't watch or pay attention to a lot of these other channels. And there's some channels where they know better. I've had personal conversations with some of these people. They know how electoral politics is a waste of time, yet they still spend the majority of their time talking about electoral politics, complaining about this politician or that politician and all that. And it's like, I thought you understood that electoral politics is a waste of time. Why are you spending all your time only talking about that? Why don't you spend some time in trying to actually help people out and make their lives better? Andrew says, I don't follow Russell Brand much, but WTF has happened to him. I had a stream about that. You're talking about those allegations that came up. Had some people on that stream to talk about that, to give their perspective also. But I mean, he was in that Hollywood space and everything, and uh, there's a lot of influence in Hollywood by three-letter agencies too. And it seems like now he has transferred his addiction that he had to drugs. He's transferred that onto an addiction for um, growing an audience online, if that makes sense. Like getting those dopamine hits from appealing to a certain audience. Like now he's become like he's showing a lot of characteristics that a cult leader would have. And so that's really stuff that we need to be aware of. Like when we're watching all these different channels and stuff, we have to be detached so that we don't develop this sycophantic behavior where we're just believing everything that these people say and idolizing these people. It's important to watch these channels in a detached manner. What's up, Extra Bola? It's good to have you here, man. Egopamine. Yeah. Dopamine to satisfy one's ego. So like I mentioned, there's been times when Russell Brand has said things that are likely to be true. Just because he's been right on some of those issues doesn't mean that he's always going to be right. Just like with what I was mentioning earlier, like how I used to follow these spiritual channels. Just because some of these spiritual gurus or channels were right about some issues about consciousness or self-help doesn't mean they're always going to be right. Like how a lot of them are wrong about political issues. They go down a path where they just think that they're so consciously aware that they ignore how they should keep their ego in check because they think that they're beyond that now. And so they're so egoic that they think they can't be wrong about things sometimes, and then they become really hard-headed about stuff. And they think that they're so right on some of these political issues. The Vanguard subtext has always been the herd for the Democratic Party. Yeah, I mean that's like unfortunate for them, right? And then you have the other side that's also kind of like hurting for the Republican Party by only criticizing the Democrats, but then not calling out the Republicans enough. You know, because if you're not calling out both sides enough, if you're mostly calling out one side, then it leaves open space for the other side, and some of the audience members start to think, oh, well, maybe that means I should vote for the other side. Maybe that means I should vote for Republicans then. Because, like, when you start to say things like, oh, the establishment hates Trump, blah, 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 like, then that makes people think that they should vote for Trump. When that's not going to actually be the solution. When no matter who wins for president, the goal is always to make the lobbyists richer. The goal will always be to satisfy the military-industrial complex and all that. Ronwell says, Frank, I love WandaVision, especially the young actor who played Billy, followed me on Twitter and IG. That's awesome, bro. That's so cool to get him to have him follow you. And Dragon Ball. I met this kid in person and won a signed Funko Pop from him last January. That's really cool, man. That's what's up, Ronwell. I thought WandaVision was good too. The Global Solidarity says the opinion of audience can be repeated by brand to continue cash flow. Yeah. And that's what some of these online commentators have, is that they see what their audience is saying, and so they feel like they should just say things that will appease their audience, because if they challenge the things that their audience thinks, then they're like, oh my, but that's gonna hurt my pockets. They're gonna unsubscribe and they're not gonna want to donate money to me. So there has to be detachment from that. I think that when it comes to like political commentary and all that, it really should not be about the money, because that can really affect the way that you will present the information to people. So at the very least, for you guys as the audience members, it just should be your job to be aware of of how this could be happening to some of these online commentators, how they let their fear of not making enough money to make ends meet drive the way in which they deliver their political analysis. Yeah, exactly. We need critical thinking. Trump is the establishment too. All right, how far are we in this stream? An hour and 17 minutes. All right, guys, so I am about to close this stream. I will say again, I really appreciate the support that you guys have been showing. I'm really excited about the future of this channel. I'm really excited about the videos that are going to come out. And I would love to do another live Q&A with you guys. You know, if you have any questions about some of the videos that I've made in the past, like if you still don't understand some of the things that I brought up in the videos, or if you have any other questions you want to ask me, like how we were talking earlier about my favorite restaurant or like my favorite kind of pet and things like that, feel free to ask me that. You know, I want to have like a chill stream where it's just like really down to earth, and you know, yeah, we're just here to have a chill sesh. Yeah, exactly, Extra Bill. A lot of preaching to the choir and no answers. Exactly. And that's why I'm putting out the kind of content now, because I want people's lives to get better. Love you too, brother. It says, love you, brother. Love you, chat peeps. Beam Worthy says, but what if the audience artificial, embodied beyond belief? That definitely happens too. That artificial, the artificial propping up of certain channels is definitely a thing. For example, where X and Y, Dan Harmon probably thought his audience sentiments, for example, were X and Y, when really they were Z. If it's worth it to manipulate, yeah, I mean, there might be bots and these bot trolls that are trying to steer a online commentator to go towards a certain direction with his channel in a way that at the end of the day will benefit these billionaires more. The perception, it will be attempted. Yeah. We need critical thinking. Tim Pool and that whole lot from Fundergate all heard for Trump and would not have Jill Stein on. Yep. Yeah, if they're not what's it called? Subliminally, if they're not subliminally supporting Kamala, then they're like subliminally supporting like Trump, these really big popular online channels, right? All right, guys, take care. Love you guys.